Hello, all. Hi, I'm Casey Durango of Go Keto with Casey, where I like to talk about how I've lost 97.4 pounds since starting the ketogenic diet and how you might be able to lose weight, improve your health, and regain control of your life. Sorry for the slow start. Like so often, my technology, I had to reboot things really quickly. So good to see you here. Hope all is well in your world. It's beautiful, beautiful spring day here in my part of the world. Today, I want to talk about, and I've written about this at my blog, kcdurango.com, and it's just, I think the blog title was Keto and Campfires, just like this one is. And I like to use metaphors and analogies. They help me understand things. And I think this is an apt analogy. If you are familiar with the ketogenic diet, you keep your carbohydrate intake to a point where, lowered it to a point where your liver is not producing glucose for fuel, and our bodies happily switch to burning fat for fuel, ketones. Hence the name ketogenic diet. It's from ketosis, burning fat for fuel. So why would that be different than any other nutrition protocol? How is it different than the low fat or the cuckoo's a little late? Sorry about that. Yes, and it had to be at noon, right? The most times possible. Cuckoo and I have a running love-hate relationship. How is it different than low fat or move more, eat less, or the cabbage soup diet or any other restrictive diet? One thing is when you're burning fat for fuel, it's different than when you're burning glucose for fuel. Our brains are different. Not only do many people, including me, report a lifting of kind of some mental fog. We're more alert, we're more energetic. But there's a physiological thing that goes on. When we burn sugar for fuel or glucose for fuel, so when we're eating carbs, and keep in mind, carbs are carbs, whether it's a whole bran muffin or a Snickers bar or a sweet potato, it comes out of your liver as simple sugar. If our brains are so now we're providing glucose to our body for fuel. So our brains say, okay, I'm burning glucose for fuel for the most part. Since glucose cannot be, I'm sorry, my life is very full right now. We've got granddaughter here and my daughter's upstairs and the dog needs to be let in. Hold, please. Sorry about that. This is what happens almost every morning on patreon.com. Not now, Atticus. So if we're burning glucose for fuel, since glucose cannot be stored in the blood, if you're storing glucose, if you have too much glucose in your blood, that's type 2 diabetes. You know, our bodies at any given point will have about 5 grams of glucose. And if you have 6 grams of glucose, that's like 2 teaspoons. It's type 2 diabetes. Since it can't be, you can see Atticus is wearing the collar of shame. He's an old guy, 15 and a half, and he's been plagued with a hot spot. Atticus, go to bed. So since it can't be stored, it's a quick burning fuel, let's put it that way. And we might know that instinctively. It's a quick burning fuel. So our brains, since it can't be stored and it burns quickly, and our brains are energy hogs, our brains burn the majority of our fuel compared to its size. You have to keep a steady supply, right? So our brains tell us, get me some more glucose, which is why you think you're having a hard, healthy breakfast at 8 o'clock, and at 10:30, you're ready to punch someone in the face if they don't get you a muffin or a cookie or a croissant or some chips. It's because your brain says, get me some more glucose. Now, what the heck does that have to do with a campfire? Those of you who have ever built a campfire or a fire in your fire pit or anything else, you know, you can burn a lot of things and get a flame and heat and smoke. And I apologize if you hear Atticus panting in the background, but he is an old guy and he won't go to his bed. And so sorry about that. Live TV. You can burn a campfire and you can keep the fire going with pine cones and dried leaves. and it'll burn, 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 burn. But what do you need to do? You better make sure you got a boatload of pine cones and dried leaves, because that is quick burning fuel. You have to stay tending that fire constantly, or else it's going to fizzle out. If you build a fire and you burn some nice aged hickory logs, you can throw one or two on the fire and walk away and do something else with the next couple of hours. Think of the glucose, the carbs, as pine cones and dried leaves. And think of when you're burning fat for fuel, that nice, luscious, fatty pork chop as an aged hickory log. Think about it in your own lives. When you're burning glucose for fuel, there are intrusive thoughts of food all the time, not because we're slobs, but because our brains are constantly needing more fuel. That's one reason this works. And then we naturally reduce our fuel intake, right? Because everything's running the way it's supposed to. That's one reason this is such a different protocol. It's not just a fad. It's been around. It's the way we used to eat as a species. So it's clearly not a fad. You know what's a fad? Instagram is a fad. I mean, it's, a very popular one. But taking selfies of yourself with duck lips, that's a fad. People's kids that do that now, their kids are going to look, oh, my mom, what were you doing with the duck lips? Just like we say, what was going on with the hairstyles back in the 80s? Anywho, those are fads. Fueling our bodies with what we were designed to eat is not a fad. But this isn't a trick. It's not a gimmick. You don't need any pills or kits or packaged meals. You don't need any powders. Nothing. You just eat food. You just leave off the carbs. That's it. There's not one product that you need to purchase to be 100% successful at this protocol. You don't need a cookbook. People like cookbooks. And I've been encouraged to come up with one, but it would be a ridiculous cookbook because I'm not a cook. I'm a lazy cook. And it would be a series of cast iron skillets with some reserved bacon fat and a fatty source of protein and maybe a handful of vegetables thrown in. You need nothing. Next time you eat, leave off the carbs. That's it. And it's not just about the weight. It's almost not about the weight, ultimately. It's about improved health and coming off of medications and getting your life back and finding the strength to do things you were too afraid to do before. I speak with and hear from many people, and the stories of triumph, not just weight loss success, but triumph that I am privileged to learn about, it's just amazing. When we start feeling better about ourselves, when we start feeling proud of ourselves, when we start proving to ourselves what we can do instead of being reminded what we can't do, we tell ourselves what we can't do. Other people imply what we can't do. It's amazing. It is a life-changing experience, and not just because you fit in a size 8 jeans. That's gravy. You should pardon the expression. By the way, you can make gravy on this. If you got some pan drippings from your fatty source of protein, throw just a wee bit of cream cheese in there, whip it up. Beautiful, luscious gravy. Okay, that was really my message. So to reiterate, how is the ketogenic protocol like a campfire? Eating carbs is like throwing quick burning, cheap fuel on a fire that you have got to continually keep stoking. The ketogenic diet, when you're burning fat for fuel, is burning with an efficient, long-lasting fuel source that allows you to step away and go do something else. When we're burning sugar for fuel, about all we can do is think about the next meal because our bodies are telling us that. Our brains are telling us that, not our bodies. Our brains are saying, get me some more glucose, if that makes sense. So that's it. Quick lesson that it makes sense to me. I am not a medical provider. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a PhD. I'm a former fatty. And all I can do is share with you my experience and my understanding of how and why this works. And if I can do this, please believe me, anyone can do this. If I can do this, anyone can do this. I do not have the capacity with this platform right now, the way it is, to show you before photos, but you can see them at my blog. I was really round and heavy and had been for 30 years. I hadn't put on a few pounds one year and needed to get them off. I was really fat for 30 years and I'd given up ever losing weight. I just didn't want to take insulin for type 2 diabetes. And this is the way you avoid that. Okay, so it's lovely to see everyone here. I do want to, and I see some familiar names. Hey, Lori, thank you. Good analogy. Thank you. I like it. Hi from Atlantic Canada. I love gravy. Throw some cream cheese in, just a little bit. It doesn't take much, and whisk it up. Some seasonings. So good. You just saw my before pic? You did? Kathleen, where did you see it? Did you go to my blog? I don't think it's anywhere else. Maybe it is. Hey, Shell. She writes, I agree, Kathleen. I don't obsess over weight anymore. The body does what it does. So I'm enjoying life way more now with other things, important stuff that matters. That is the crux of it, Shell. You know, my best-selling line of things. I've got pop sockets and T-shirts and mugs that say, food is not the boss of me. And I think that is one of the silliest sounding but most profound victories of this protocol. Food not being the boss of us. Because it is the boss of us when we're burning sugar for fuel. It is, sometimes you can white knuckle your way through it. But man, you feel deprived and then you feel weak. Like, why can't I stop thinking about it? And it's not because we're weak. It's because we're programmed that way. Think of glucose as break this glass in case of emergency type of fuel. It's like if you've got nothing better, if you can't put your hands on some eggs or some bacon or a piece of liver or a chuck roast or some poultry with the skin or whatever your fatty source of protein of choice is, if you can't get your hands on that, then okay, have some lettuce. I am not anti-veg, by the way. But the protocol calls for us to keep a maximum intake of non-starchy vegetables, maximum of about a cup a day, pre-cooked. That's about the size of your fist. You don't even have to buy a measuring cup to be successful at this. About 2 cups maximum of leafy greens a day. There's no minimum requirement for vegetables, although you will be told that there is, so someone can sell you a pill to replace all those vegetables that sound like you can't eat that many. And since it's maximum, and since carbohydrate is not an essential nutrient, macronutrient, you don't need to eat them at all. I eat, not because I don't like them, I like vegetables. I just don't have room for them in my plan. I eat fatty sources of protein. And here's the protocol, keep your carbohydrate intake to 20 grams total, not net, or fewer a day. Eat fatty sources of protein. Don't eat if you're not hungry. Stop when you're satiated. By the time I'm satiated, I just haven't gotten around to the vegetables. Or so I just stopped serving them to myself. I'm not anti-veg. I do eat them, just not very often. Hello from Minnesota. Love your chat. So glad. I am going to give a plug for it because I do see some of them here. I do, patrons at patreon.com have allowed me to change my career from my former career I had for 30 years, lucrative, to do this. So I do continue to provide free content. I do that via YouTube and some Facebook postings and my blog, but the bulk of it is for patrons. And for $2 a month, you get about 20 videos from me a month and access to a patron-only forum on discourse. And up from there, I think this month, I think in May, we're going to have 8 patron-only live streams and 6 or 7 patron-only video group sessions. And then the next level up, you get a 50-minute one-on-one with me a month. So there's the plug for patreon.com. Thank you to patrons. It is humbling, and it has become a true community. And I mean that in every sense of the word. We almost never have to talk about the food. We talk about the other things in life that make it challenging, and how some of us are having to learn to not turn to food when that thing happens in our life, that moment, that stressor, that thing where we would have gone searching. And as we say around Go Keto with Casey, if hunger is not the problem, food is not the answer. But that's a difficult habit to break, turning to food. We've been conditioned to do so. So it is a wonderful community. And thank you to you patrons. Some of you are here. Libby writes, hi, Casey, finally caught you on a live stream. For those of you who are interested, you may not be, I am pulling back on doing Facebook Live for now, with increasing obligations and commitments and no more hours in the day than ever. I've had to make some decisions, and Facebook was the first thing to go as far as live streams. But I will continue for now doing this on YouTube. So thank you. Okay, Joanne writes, I'm a current fatty. I need to get started so I can enjoy life again and ride horses again. Gotten so big, everything hurts, and you're too large to ride. Joanne, you can absolutely do this. And as already been written, next meal, leave off the carbs. That's how I started. People say, how do you start? What do I need to go to the store and get? I didn't have to go to the store and get anything. I just left off the carbs. I just said, okay, I can do that. I can keep my carbs 20 grams or fewer, because zero is fewer than 20. Now, I didn't go zero carb all the time immediately. I just left off the carbs. So if we usually had a ribeye and a baked potato and broccoli, I just left off the baked potato. And it's still delicious. Can I tell you? Delicious. It is not, as people will tell you, oh, it's hard, it's restrictive. It's the opposite of restrictive. It's the opposite of restrictive. It's very nutrient dense. You can get this is very nutrient dense. I don't even take a multivitamin. Animal flesh is nutrient dense. They've eaten all the vegetables and grains on our behalf. And then we eat them. I've reached, Carolyn Langford writes, I've reached goal weight today, lost 56 pounds. That is fantastic. Congratulations. Did you ever think that you would get to goal weight? I know I never did. And going back to the, oh, thank you, Gels Mommy. Patreon blesses me so. Join. Thank you, Casey. Stacy from the UP. Love Stacy. Love her. A smile like Mary Tyler Moore's lights up a room. She can turn the world on with her smile. Speaking of horses, when I was a kid, I rode horses, went to camp, did all that stuff. And I would love to do it again. I actually thought, I'm too big to ride a horse. I'll break the horse. I'll hurt the horse. You think thoughts like that when you're really large. And if you might be able to hear my granddaughter in the background. Like I said, we've got a lot of going on today. Carolyn writes, thank you. Keto is brilliant. It is. And it's so simple. It's so simple, people don't believe it can be true. Because it's so simple. It's like, what? I don't have to buy meal plans? Don't buy meal plans. Do what you want to do. I've been asked to provide meal plans, and people say, I'll pay you for a meal plan. I'm not going to do that. Because as soon as something is prescribed, here's a meal plan, then you think you have to eat everything on that meal plan, whether you're hungry or not. I'd rather teach you to fish. Eat fatty sources of protein. Don't eat if you're not hungry. And that is a lesson that can be difficult. It's an elegant finesse. What's actual hunger? Because many of us have not been actually empty in decades. like actually empty, tummy rumble, not hunger. That's a circadian rhythm. It'll pass in 5 or 6 minutes. Peckishness, also not hunger. It's peckishness. Push the peckishness is another thing we say around Go Keto with Casey. Lori Morris writes, meat with fat is brain food. It's that simple. It truly is. Shell writes, it's not restricted because you do not even think about food like that. One ribeye and go live your life. Throw that hickory log on the fire and go live your life. Is it possible to eat too much protein? Asks Barbo. Yes, this is not a high protein diet. And honestly, there's no benefit in eating more protein than your body needs. So how much protein is that? No idea. Dr. Stephen Finney has been asked, how much protein should I eat a day? He says, I don't know. I have no idea. And if I knew how much I eat a day, I would only recommend it for you if you were my twin or my clone. As humans, we tend to not feel well if we overeat protein. We feel kind of logy, weighted down, kind of bleh. You know what logy is. You're just, I don't feel well. So it's self-regulating, but it's different. There's a formula out there, but there's also a wide range in that formula, and it's a lot of math. If you just eat fatty sources of protein, it'll come packaged the right way. So don't eat lean protein. Skinless chicken breast is the waste of a good chicken. Eat a chicken thigh with the skin, or eat a chicken breast with the skin. An egg white omelet, why bother? Eat the yolks with the egg whites. Comes that way. It's perfect. Perfect balance. Don't eat filet mignon. Do if you want to. Well, one thing is really expensive. It's really lean. Eat a ribeye, New York strip. In fancy restaurants, a lot of times they wrap the filet mignon bacon because there's not much flavor in filet mignon because it's so lean. The flavor's in the fat. Joanne Sando writes, thank you, and time to get started living again. No kidding, no matter what age. The quote on the note cards that I use when I write out thank you notes to people who become patrons and other things. A quote from George Eliot, it's never too late to become the person you were supposed to be. Ever. Never too late. My favorite story is still talking about Marie, who shared at the Go Keto with Casey Portland Roadshow how she had, she was on a pacemaker and she had, heart issues, and she gave up sugar, a lifetime habit of sugar. She gave up sugar and other carbs, and she just started feeling better, and her pacemaker stopped alarming. She didn't need any adjustments or however they're measured. So Marie, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that story. How long ago did you give up sugar? 3 years. Oh, that's fantastic, Marie. How old are you? 93. So don't tell anyone you can't do it because you've eaten sugar all your life. We all have. And if Marie can do it, any of us can do it. Hola, Casey. Me encantan tus videos. Es un placer escucharte. Muchas gracias. Todavía ese día yo estoy pensando en hacer videos o un podcast en español con mi esposo, porque yo no puedo hablar español perfectamente y yo no quiero decir las palabras incorrectas. Yo aprendí español de mi esposo, entonces no en la escuela ni nada. Yo puedo hablar, pero no perfecto. Black Cat asks, how long does it usually take for the need for extra salt to go away, or does it? No. Again, self-regulating. If you don't have hypertension that is sodium sensitive, Dr. Stephen Finney recommends 5 grams of sodium a day. Just 5 grams of sodium a day. The 2.5 grams a day that the American Heart Association recommends, he says really is for people with hypertension issues, but they just pull it out for everyone. So depending on the day and how I'm feeling, I'll drink Soleil water, which is just, make a little thing of Himalayan salt in a jar of water and put a couple of teaspoons in a glass of water. Some people put it in their lemonade or tea. I'll take bouillon cubes to make sure I get enough sodium. They have about 1 gram of sodium per. So just keep going. But if you're asymptomatic, I tend to not try to treat symptoms I don't have. I am prone to leg cramps, so I do try to stay on top of it. Joanne asks, is it realistic to expect a 7-year-old to eat this way too? I've sadly passed on my horrible eating habits, Tim. There's no reason children should not eat this way. Infants, newborns are born in ketosis. They're born in ketosis. Breast milk, very high fat content. That's how they lay on so many brain cells and grow. Think how massively you go from newborn to toddler in a short period of time. You can try to find some articles or interviews of Dr. Jay Wortman, a Canadian MD, that's Wortman, who came to the ketogenic way even after being a medical doctor, I think in his 50s, when he realized he was a type 2 diabetic. He was mortified. And then he got married, and he had a child later in life. So his daughter, Isabel, his wife was ketogenic throughout the pregnancy, and Isabel, his daughter, is ketogenic, last time I heard. There's no upside to the sugar. None. Ron, hey, Ron. Hi, Casey. I just got back from vacation and lost 2 pounds. It was all in the planning. Thank you. We had our Go Keto with Casey cruise in March, and 2 people came back from the cruise with hitting new lows. By the way, speaking of which, time to bring it up, because I did get the feedback that some people would have been interested in the cruise we took, but I really didn't talk it up or let it be known that it was going on until it was kind of too late. We're having Go Keto with Casey Alaska cruise, sailing July 10th, 2020 from Seattle. So we have about 60 people, I think, who are already reached out. There is a person looking for a state cabin mate. I've just put the link to my blog with some information, which I keep changing as I get more information. But there are a lot of links. And contact Lisa at coastlinetravel.com. She is the travel consultant, and she group rates and all of that kind of thing. To get the group perks and group rates, you must book through her. How many teaspoons in 5 grams? Are you talking about sodium, Barbara? Because it depends on your source of sodium. Some sources, like table salt, has a different amount of sodium per teaspoon. We use, usually, Diamond brand kosher salt in our house, and that has, I'm taxing my memory here, 238 milligrams of sodium per quarter teaspoon, which means every teaspoon has about 1.1, 1.3, whatever the math is, grams of sodium, every teaspoon. But that can vary depending on your source of sodium. And Shell writes, I do both salt and magnesium. I do take a slow release magnesium supplement. I take Mag 64 from Amazon. I get them 5 packages at a time. Go to my blog under resources, that it is an Amazon affiliate link, but I take 3 of those a day, along with the sodium. Okay, I am going to start to log off. We've got things to do today, fortunately. So, and Shell writes, I got Slow Mag from Walmart. So find your most economical source and have at it. Again, look at this. People have got, leg cramps. Oh, and so they go out and buy electrolyte powders and fancy drinks and things like this. I know one woman, she just takes some salt and puts it under her tongue and drinks some water. It's like this is the opposite diet, in that it is economical. Often the solutions to any issue is the simplest solution, not the most complex. If you think about it, nature really did kind of provide everything we need to progress as a species, right? We've been around 70 million years. And up until recently, every generation got stronger, taller, lived longer. And now we're getting fatter, shorter, and our lifespan is lower. We didn't get to be bigger, stronger, better because we were trying to trick nature. Nature provides us with what we need. We just need to take advantage of it and quit overthinking. And don't fuel your brain with pine cones and dried leaves. Fuel your brain with a hickory log. Or, as Shell said, with a ribeye. And then get on with your life. Thank you for the super chat, Unkindness of Ravens. You're always so generous. Didn't want to miss a thing. You're very generous. And thank you for the super chats, which means if you ask a question, it gets pinned to the top. Didn't want to miss saying thank you. I actually misread that. Thank you very much, Unkindness of Ravens. And that's a beautiful and poetic handle. Jennifer Hackett, have a good weekend, Casey. Jennifer, did you tell me that you can see and hear me? Margie. Oh, I'm so sorry I didn't see you. Oh, my goodness. Margie, you are so missed. Happy birthday week, Casey. How are you, Margie? Just, you know what I'm asking about. Just give me a thumbs up. You have been missed. I was just talking about you at a group chat. Just doing it the other day. I use pink Himalayan salt. There are lots of ways to do it. Something's food grade. Don't drink Epsom salt. No. Well, you can if you want to. I soak in Epsom salt. That's a lovely way to get your minerals because our skin is our largest organ. So if you sit in a warm bath with Epsom salts, light a candle, beautiful way. It's very relaxing. Okay, guys, have a wonderful. Okay, good, Margie. Thank you. Thank you. I've missed you. I think about you a lot, Margie. That's the thing about the community. Whether it's this YouTube group that kind of we see familiar names or our Patreon community or whatever it might be, you get to know each other and you find out you're not alone. So easy to think we're the only ones struggling. No, we all struggle. We all have our moments. We all have our moments. So that's when you reach out to community. People who know, who have walked in your footsteps. No matter whether you've got 25 pounds you want to lose, or my friend, I'll just call her Elle, I won't say her name, has lost 211 pounds. I just talked with her the other day. 211 pounds. All she's done is follow this protocol. Nothing fancy. The people with whom I speak who are the most successful simply follow the protocol. They don't play with fake baked goods. They don't mess around with MCT oil and butter in their coffee and fat bombs. They don't eat almond flours. They just follow the protocol. 211 pounds. So whether you've got 20 pounds to lose, 250 pounds to lose or more, whether you are just starting out, whether you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 20s, in college, there are people that can identify with you. Okay, bye, y'all. You can carry on the conversation about whether you should eat Epsom salt or not. I'll leave that for somebody who knows more about it. I am going to enjoy the weekend. I'm going to burn some yard debris. I love fires, by the way. I'm a bit of a pyro. And hopefully I'll see you next Saturday, God willing, and the creek don't rise. And again, thank you to patrons. If you're interested in cruising, you don't have to put down a deposit until October 31st. This is not a profit center for my husband and I. We've already booked our cabin, and we're going on the cruise whether no one else does or not. Well, no one else in a group. There will be 4,000 other people on the cruise, but we're going whether or not. Okay, TTFN, which means ta-ta for now. Thanks, guys. Bye.